Well, I mean, this type of deadlift, because, I mean, number one, the piece of equipment is incredible,
It's
right? So
amazing.
you don't really have that in your normal gym.
No, you don't.
You can start there.
It'd be great.
But with this pole, the load is beneath the athlete. So coming up, they have to get tension on the bar and get in a different starting position than a normal pole. So normal pole is going to be
Okay.
9 inches. If you were to just walk in the gym and load the bar up with plates, 9 inches. These guys are pulling, I believe this is from around 19 inches.
Oh, wow. All right.
Maybe 19 and a half.
I think it's 18. I think.
Is it 18?
I think it's 18 because I think
Okay.
they tried to hold a standard of like the silver dollar 18-inch deadlift. I believe it's 18.
So basically double. If it's
Okay.
18, double the
Twice
height.
as high,
Yeah. So what you're going to find is some athletes will generate more power from 9 inches. Like for myself, I would actually prefer a lower pull
Oh, really?
than a higher
Okay.
pull. This was a much harder position. Now, with me being taller, it would fall right below my knees, and it was very, very difficult for me because once you get the bar above your knees, you're a lot more powerful, right? So with this type of deadlift, your height can come into play and where the bar actually falls for your starting position. So you need to be working at this starting height to be good at this starting height.
Yeah.
I
I always
gotcha.
found,
Okay.
and you'd have the same thing, is our heights at this height of 18 inches, 20 inches, your hips seem like they're so far behind you, it's really hard to get your hips into the start of the lift.
Massive.
Where you're normally off the floor, we're wide, you get that big push off the
Yes.
floor.
And the leg power is a big part of it, a big part of it. So that's why I'm saying these guys, and what you'll see when they come up probably is that they'll try to get tension in the system before they start the pull. So it's just a different setup, but you really need to lock in tight so that you can utilize your legs. You don't really want it to be all back where you're pulling all with your back.
I believe Mateus had several attempts, and
Mateus. And we knew going in, but this isn't the best event for Mateus. Historically, he struggles at the deadlift, but that's no, indication of how he's going to perform the rest of the week. This has always been kind of his Achilles.
It's crazy to me to watch this, that you've got something which is in the realm of 900 to 1,000 pounds that is quote unquote for reps. I mean, not just when, are you kidding me? Like, that's mind-boggling to me.
Well, it's just the way the deadlift has evolved. Years you can look back at through the years of deadlift and how it's really evolved, especially the last 10 years. Where, if you look back like 16, 17, 18, when we were doing it at the Arnold Classic, it was almost expected that we were going to be over 1,000 pounds.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you knew that you had to be over 1,000 pounds from the from the elephant bar deadlift to be in the points. To be in the top 3, you were going to have to be.
yeah. I mean, and just a little over 10 years ago when Zadruna set the world's record at World's Strongest Man Finals, it was 969
Yep.
in the finals, right?
Yeah.
And,
Right at 970. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, and so to see, and that was the world record. Now we've got all these guys, now we're doing 900 for reps. It was funny when I see this, we call it a deadlift, but when it first started off back in the 1800s, they called this the health lift.
Right.
It was
yes.
actually like a medium range lift. Some people have probably heard this, maybe some haven't. And I think it's just a central movement that people can do.
100%. Everybody should be deadlifting. Period. End of
Exactly.
story, really.
Yeah, the all body you get out of the deadlift, not many other lifts you can replicate that.
You gentlemen watching this said you weren't entirely shocked what you just saw with Mateusz. Do you think there is a clear standout winner for this event before we even get too deep into the field?
I think there's about 3 guys that could be battled. I mean, Trey did very well at this last year. He had 10 reps, so I would expect Trey to do well at this. Now, one thing to take in mind, from the reps we saw last year for what we're going to see this year, is last year the guys were allowed to wear suits and like half suit briefs, where they're not allowed this year. So this is completely raw this year. So it is going to change the numbers maybe a little bit. So Alexei Novikov, they're showing right now. Alexei in a suit is extremely well. His narrow stance suits him very well in briefs or a suit. Now myself, I'm sure Brian had the same thing. The wider lifters, it actually hurt me in a suit. I never could get it figured out because I never could get down in position in a suit. But a guy like Alexei, narrow stance, it suited him very well.
I'm fascinated by this. I'm sure there's a lot of CrossFitters watching this feed, and they've never had one of these suits on. I've never had a suit on. I've seen it. I don't understand it. I don't know what it does. All I know is that it helps. But does it help a little? Like if you deadlift 700, does it, do you bump to 750 or you bump into 9? Like, what does it actually do?
It really depends on the lifter. It really suits a narrow deadlifter better, I feel.
Okay.
You know, so like Alexi, you put Alexi in a suit, he's a 1,000-pound deadlifter.
What is he without the suit?
Maybe 900.
Oh, wow, okay.
Maybe
wow,
880, 900, I would say.
And also,
then, but you put Brian and I in a suit, we're probably going to do worse than we would raw, because for me, I can't get down in position in a suit. It actually takes me out of position.
Oh, interesting.
With the
Okay.
wide, and I want my hips low, I can't get in a good position because the suit, way the suit's supposed to fit very tight and stiff, I can't get into position.
Well, last year when they were walking up the steps, you could see that some of the guys were having trouble getting up the steps because of the briefs, and so.
I'm not a big fan of suits.
Oh, really?
Just in general, I think the sport of strongman should 100% do away with them. So I think this is a great call for the Rogue Invitational. Have the guys out of suits. To speaking to Jerry's point, if you have a suit dialed in, correctly, certain athletes can benefit more from it than others, right? Yeah. And maybe I'm old school, at this point, probably am, but I'm more a fan of, like throw a belt on and let's see how strong you are. Like I don't need you getting into a bunch of gear and
100%. Let's see who the best deadlifter is, not who has the best equipment.
Now, speaking about Alexi, he will prefer this height of deadlift for sure. This is gonna play into his hand. So, as he goes, I'm thinking he needs, obviously going early in the event, he's gonna need to put up a good number, and that looked really powerful.
Yeah, his height, he can coil into that bar really well.
Yeah.
Wow. He's the world record holder with the 18-inch deadlift.
Yeah.
1,300 pounds.
Yeah, he's broke the world record on that before.
Wow.
That's a fast start.
Yeah, I can hear you.
He's going to put up a good number here.
That's a fast start.
Yep. Now you see how that bar is moving a little bit. He needs to do a good job of getting tight because he's fighting it as it's coming up. It's moving a little bit. So the more tension that you can get at the start of the lift, the better off you're going to be through the whole pull.
Yeah, because that bar has to be top dead center of that apparatus, of that frame you're lifting. Because if you're a little bit either way, you're going to fight yourself. You're going to fight pulling against those glides that is going on. So it has to be top dead center. Like Brian just said, you're going to have to, because being there, the weight is not on the bar where it's preloaded that you can kind of grab it and pull it to you. You've got to preload it yourself.
Yep.
And really coil into it and make sure that thing is pulling straight up top dead center.
I mean, we're talking kind of all things deadlift. You're talking about history. Some people know about Bob Peoples. He pulled was it 720 back in 1949.
That's awesome.
40 years old, but he only weighed like 180 pounds. But he just trained
That's
deadlift,
amazing.
trained deadlift.
Huge, yeah.
And then it took 23 years, Terry taught himself actually to break that record. Much bigger man with specialized training. And just think about that, just low sevens, mid sevens was the world record. And it's just continued, and it's progressed. But I think also too, it's just a lot more bars in people's hands and a lot more focused training.
Well, I think, perfecting like stances, I'm like Brian was, I'm a big fan of the wide. I believe that hugely improved my deadlift for what I ever would have pulled narrow. And then strongman, everything we do in strongman, with doing the stones and log and the dynamic stuff with, farmer's walk and frame and yoke, to me all helps those platform lifts like deadlift. And I believe that's why, we pushed it as high as we did, because all that kind of plays into it.
How much improving your deadlift, everyone thinks, posterior chain, glutes and hamstrings. So when you think about just your midline, your abdominal wall, your spinal erectors, you're not just your legs. I mean, do you guys spend a tremendous amount of time just getting your core just ridiculously strong for that, or is it just part of when you're lifting the barbell, it happens?
I wouldn't do a lot of extra core work. But everything I did was building core.
Right,
If you're doing the dynamic lifts in the strongman, you're building core. And I always had the thing when I was deadlifting, I know I wouldn't put a belt on until after 800 pounds.
Me too, right.
I always had that set. But it was keys for me as I started going up. I'd start kind of turning up the dial, and that was just one of the things. I just didn't put a belt up. Plus, to me, the belt. I looked at the belt as an aid.
Sure, right.
So the
belt's not mad. Like, you need to know how to brace without it.
Exactly. So and you got to be able to practice that. So every week, that was the standard. Leave the belt off to at least
Well, this
ankle
is
rate.
it's an interesting conversation. This has come up before about the difference from powerlifting to strongman.
Okay.
Right? And there's a question that has been presented before about why the strongmen have such good deadlifts compared to powerlifters when they're only working on 3 lifts.
Right.
But speaking of Jerry's point, all of the stuff you're doing in strongman is building that strength up, right? So if you're carrying a yoke, you're building it up. You're carrying a frame or farmers, you're building it up. Picking up a sandbag, picking up stones. So most top-level strongmen could walk into a powerlifting meet and pull a massive number, most likely out-pulling almost all, if not all, of the top powerlifters in deadlift.
I believe it's a big mindset too. Because I came from powerlifting, and the old powerlifting mindset, and for a lot of things, still powerlifters, is you train on the percentages to have this great day on that meet day.
Right.
Well, strongman, we know what the number is. Like these guys know they had to do 900 for reps today. So it's not, you hope I'm going to be strong enough to lift today. They know this is what they have, and I got to get the max reps. So each week you're hitting that, So it's a different approach and mindset to it. You're going heavy all the time.
Yeah.
I bet also you guys exposing yourself, like you said, like Brian said, to so many different training implements. If you're just squatting, deading, and pressing in different ways, it's going to get you so far. But if you're doing that, and you're picking up stones, and you're carrying yokes, and you're dragging sleds, and you're doing fill in the blank, the body's going to respond to that.
Yeah, I've said for years, 'cause I started powerlifting when I was 15, so I've seen both sides of this. And the powerlifters like, I don't want to do the strongman stuff. The strongman stuff, like Brian was just saying, will build the platform
That makes
strength.
sense.
And the same thing, the static lifts for powerlifting will help build the strongman events. The two, it's all strength athletics. The two will play to each other,
Massively.
I coached.
But you get these two sides where strongmen don't want to do powerlifting and powerlifters don't want to do strongman. Like,
Right.
it's all strength athletics. You know?
There's a lot of benefit to be gained there that you're just leaving on the table.
I coached for a powerlifting gym, a couple of them actually, and every time I would do it, I would make them I'd get the Slater molds out and make different size stones. And everybody's deadlift would go up 50 to 75 pounds all the way across within the first 2 months.
That's interesting.
That extreme getting down, those positions, learning your hips, that stretch, just like, Ukrainian deadlifts are such a great implement. The stones are basically the same thing. And the other thing I implemented as a former Olympic lifter, that back to front, from hip to front, that pop, getting that fast movement, either, repetition, fast, short range deadlifts, or power cleans, high pulls, snatches, snatch pulls, even to warm up for it or to back off of it. So I think that back to front hip pop was a big thing, and then also being able to reach down and get a stone. Those two things just drove people's deadlifts up.
Oh yeah.
Well, you'll find if you were to take somebody in the gym that could deadlift a lot but has never touched a stone, their ego is shot very, very quickly.
You'll bring them down real fast.
Yeah,
Bring them down a couple
because they
pegs.
think they can handle, even a 300-pound stone. For a lot of guys going in there, they think that's a toy when maybe they're deadlifting 700 or 800. But it just doesn't work that way. You have to work on it. So
seen it many times.
I think we just watched Mitch Hooper go, and what Brian was just saying a little bit ago about pulling some tension on that bar before you go. If you watch Mitch, he was going straight from the blocks up. And he was getting that shock where it was kind of, you could see it was jolting him forward. The hips would pop out a little bit. I really think he probably could have been good for 10 reps if he'd been pulling some tension on that bar and then do that push up and not that yank from the blocks. Because there's a little bit of play from the block to where there's tension. And if you go to yank it, that sled or that frame is not going to move like regular weight, like a regular deadlift. So you see each time it's buckling his shoulders and pulling his hips out. And it takes you out of position just enough that it's going to wear you out much faster.
Did you guys train the reverse hyper very often?
I use it just mainly for like a rehab. I didn't push it heavy. I use it just for blood and the stretch.
I did it. I did some with warm-ups and then some with accessory work. Some of it, yeah. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah.
I think it's a great
Absolutely.
tool. Yeah.
What about heavy partials? You guys do a lot of that. Do you think that was good for
Massive.
massive? Yeah.
So
Heavy what you said?
heavy partial deadlifts.
Oh, okay.
So like an elevated pull. I mean, one thing that I really liked that I got into a lot was actually doing partial deadlifts on a belt squat
Okay.
wearing a belt squat belt, so the cable's right between my legs and wearing the belt, and then I'm doing a partial deadlift as well. So speaking to your point of bringing your hips through, with that you have weight on your hips, so you have to work to bring your
Wow.
hips through to lock
Get
out.
that extra fight.
And I would add, I could add band tension to the belt squat as well. So it started on the blocks, but with a lot of band tension. So I had to work really hard to get my hips through, and that really, I think it really improved my lockout
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah, I would
but-
start my deadlift day with a rack dead, an elevated deadlift, and kind of use as a warm up before I went to the floor.
You
That
always
way,
did that, right?
I always did that.
Yeah,
That way,
yeah.
I always felt when I got to the floor, I could go up faster because I was already kind of warm.
Yeah.
You know, so then I could go up a plate quick and get up to the top end where we needed to be to do the work, and then come back down and get
Yeah.
rep work in or whatnot. And
So
then,
this is going to be interesting. So Alexi set the mark. Cooper beat it by 1. So now Tom really knows what he needs to do here.
actually, I think Alexi still leading.
6 and 7. So it's Tom really. He could throw down the gauntlet here by
Yeah.
getting above 8. I think that's really where he needs to be. If he can get there.
Oh, wow. You can really see the swing. He's a tall guy, so he's got even more play in the bar, it looks like.
You got to get the tension out of that.
Yeah, it's really got to correlate to it. It's a hard pull from the start.
And it's 900 pounds.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
and you got those 4 posts. You got that the friction of those bushings that you're fighting against as well. So it's not a just regular 900-pound free
I
weight
think-
deadlift.
I think I'm pretty sure it's at 950.
Is it
950?
I think they bumped
Okay.
it. Last
What's the
year was
difference?
900, and maybe somebody can confirm on the back end for us.
Yeah, we'll
but
see.
I'm pretty sure it's 950. So the numbers we're seeing, you got a couple factors, right? We added 50 pounds to the bar, which is obviously a factor, and then we've taken out any briefs as well, right? So this is very respectable. Like it's like we're talking about Tom here, and it's him getting 4, still 4 at 950 pounds.
Right.
So I think you had some really great athletes just go. So that 6 and 7 that might be what we're looking
It's a
at here.
legit number.
Yeah.
And if Trey's another factor, what you said, he got 10 last year, so we'll see what he's able to do.
Yeah, I think Trey's probably the only one left that's probably got a chance to beat that.
I mean-
maybe Evan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Evan, I think, is a guy like Alexi that does really well in a suit.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how he does on
Well,
this.
Evan as well, and I've had conversations with Evan about this. He needs to learn to get tighter. He tries to pull so explosively,
He gets
and
his shoulders
this will not work with this.
No.
Right? An explosive pull is not going to translate here.
You can't have that with the shoulders cave off
Yeah.
that start of the pull. It just kills the lockout.
There was a guy that I knew who was he was a rocket scientist, literally a rocket scientist. He went to MIT, had a PhD, and he said, "Have you ever seen a rocket and it'll sit for a few seconds and then it takes off?"
Okay.
The same thing. It's building that tension to overcome that inertia of gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, that's a great."
You got to lock
that's a
everything
great
tight,
analogy.
brace, and that way everything's because any cave in the shoulders and you come forward, it's going to bring the hips out.
Yeah.
And every time you do that, you're going to kill that lockout of having any chance of getting that thing and lock it out.
Wow.
See, the thing is all these deadlifts and strongman are very interesting because they all present a different challenge, right? So you look at different deadlifts we've had, from a Hummer tire deadlift to the elephant bar deadlift, now the Tower of Power. All of these things are a little bit different. So I'm just looking at this, and obviously I'm an outsider perspective because I haven't pulled on this, but I would have been studying this setup, just me, and I'm just looking at it right now, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, maybe in a rack, how could I have set up some type of cable where the weight would have been suspended down from the bar, where I had to tension that cable to pull? That's probably what I would have done, because these guys, it looks like, even if you're training that height, right, but it's a normal bar and you've got it set up on blocks, there's not that tension that you have to pull in the bar. So maybe a couple short pieces of chain or something like this, where you would have set up in a power rack, and I would have tensioned that chain, got really, really tight, and then gone into my pull. Because then I could feel what this would feel like more.
100%. Being that this was already here last year, you know what it is.
Absolutely.
I would have replicated it some way in the gym.
Yeah.
Be
And
ready for it.
Well, Jerry's great because he knows what to do with metal. So he came up with some really cool training things, as did I. I didn't do it myself. Thankfully, I had guys that would help me.
But you knew the benefit
massive.
of training it like it's going to be there. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's funny we're talking about the reverse hyper machine. I've actually seen pictures and had very good reliable information. Vasily Alexeyev, the 1976 gold medalist, 72 and 76 gold medalist in weightlifting, trained out in the sticks in Russia. Everybody thinks he trained in Moscow and he was like some, like this focus of the Soviet machine. No, he hated that. He trained out somewhere, and he used to do a lot of weighted hyperextensions, and he goes, this is backwards. This is literally backwards from what I should be doing. So he literally made his own reverse hyper.
That's
he went
awesome.
to a scrap yard and put it together. Had a guy come and weld it all together. So the very first one was actually Vasily Alexeyev.
For everybody at home, you can ask the panel here a question, which would be fantastic. So just use your chat or comment feature. Those questions will pop up, and we'll answer them live here in the panel. Starting off the strongman competition with such a head-to-toe taxing event at the deadlift, 4 reps at this weight, is this something that they have enough time to recover, or is it significantly impactful for all the other events that are going to follow?
I mean, it's going to take some out of you, but if you've trained for this and conditioned yourself for this, the next event isn't for a couple hours, you should be ready to go.
Gotcha, okay.
And have a short memory if you didn't do as well as you wanted to, or maybe had
Well,
the
that's the thing,
result.
you got to forget about it and move on and get it in the next one.
I think Luke's actually, putting up a rep there gets him on the board. I think he's actually going to be pretty happy with
I
that.
think it's good points.
Yeah.
Because you got to potentially, Maxine's, same thing as Kilokoski. He's not the greatest, at deadlift, so he potentially could zero. So that's good points.
That could get him, past a couple guys right there. So all of these things are factors. Like, so many people in a contest, and this is any sport, to be fair. You look at a basketball game, it's like the last 10 seconds, where are the points. You should look at every possession and what happens. So this event, one more rep here could be the deciding factor in this entire competition. And a lot of times people don't think of it that way. That it's like, oh, it's only the first event. You got time. Well, that rep, for example, Hooper pulling one more than Alexi, that could come into play later in the events, and that could be a big deal. Now, we got Trey coming up next, it looks like here. This is an open door for Trey. He's now got to see what the standard is. So it's on him now, and 8 is going to, who knows, it could win this event, He's
got to come out firing this. And this is our only event that you can have a potential tie that you do not want.
Yeah.
You don't want to split points with anyone.
Nope.
That could hurt you come tomorrow night. That could come back to haunt you. You split points. So you really want to make sure you're out by yourself in whatever position you end up in, that you're not sharing points with someone.
So he's kind of one of them. He's not the tallest guy, and he's not the shortest guy. He's kind of more of a medium height for this field.
He's
Do you
coming
think that
big
kinda
this
helped?
weekend.
He's huge.
He's coming big this weekend.
But it's good weight. He looks super strong.
So it's a good thing.
But this height. What do you think it means for you? What it means for him? We talked about the lifter's height.
I think he's gonna be in a really good spot here. I think he's gonna like this.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of power, and he has proved that heavy deadlift for reps is an event that he likes.
Yeah.
So I think that he's across the board. Every contest you look at Trey where there's been a heavy deadlift for reps, he's always performed. He's always stepped up. So he's gonna. For him right now, mentally, what he should be thinking is, this is my opportunity to go out and win this event.
Go win, yeah.
I've got an open door. I've got to see, because of the guys that went in front of me, I got to see what I need to do. So his job here is going to be to use the clock to his advantage. So he's using the whole clock. Where in my opinion, I think both Alexi and Mitch went a little bit too fast. They burned out a little bit too quick. And if you always want to use the clock, and in my training, I would always break things down like that. So I knew, because in all fairness, right, we're counting reps. We're not taking time.
Right.
So if I pull my last rep at 55 seconds, it still counts the same whether I pull it at 55 or 35. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So utilizing the clock, just don't come out of the gate and go crazy. Take a breath, set, get tight. Every rep's the same, and have that cadence. but you should have executed that in your training so that when you walk out here and you've got all the adrenaline going and you're ready to rock and roll, you already know how many breaths you're going to take and where you're going to be in each one of these reps. So the cadence, that's very important, and that's something that I would train all the time, and hopefully these guys. But, you know, Trey needs to take his time and execute, you know, not just breathe, rep, you know, get that down, and he's got an open door.
He's got a great opportunity. He's watched some guys go, watch the mistakes that they made, you know, and have a good go here.
Yeah.
What do you think is a good number for him?
He pulled 10 last year.
I think 8. If it is actually 950,
if it's
going to be
950,
wonderful. Yeah.
I hope everybody's listening to all this advice you guys are giving, because, you know, using the clock. I mean, that's something that's.
Why would you want to stand up there and walk around for the extra 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Get another rep or two, you know?
Exactly.
Needs to pull some tension on that bar first.
There it is.
That one's better.
I think he's
Boil
got him
into
in a groove, right?
There we go.
He's getting a feel.
Yeah. I don't really see anybody doing any special preparation for this particular apparatus.
We got a clarification on this. It is 900 pounds even.
Okay.
900.
Okay.
900.
Okay.
So he's really got to dig in here. That's a big one.
There we go.
Huge.
Now here's where he doesn't want to tie.
Yep, finish it. There it is.
Man,
Come on.
I bet that was taxing.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
That's huge, and that's executing right there.
I think with the swing in that bar, the old skirt, you know, when you get it on your knees and try to pull it back, that swing just won't let you do that.
It's not
It's
going
a
to
lot
work.
harder.
It's not.
What, you know, Brian, if you were going to do this event, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you're not going to walk up there stone cold and try to pull 900. How long is it going to take you to get ready to actually pull 900 for reps, and what would that look like?
I would say probably about 20 minutes.
Okay.
20 minutes. So I would have my warm-ups already pre-planned, and you know, kind of figure out what we're going to have to warm up with. And I don't know what these guys exactly had. I'm assuming they probably had some type of block in the back for them to pull an elevated pull. And I would space that out so that, you know, based on the time here, you know when you're going to go. And I would be asking or having, you know, whoever was helping me out, I would have them asking the whole time, all right, how far out am I?
Sure.
And then I would time each one so I knew what I was doing. And, you know, it would, I would say ideally about 20 minutes. I would start moving, you know, at about maybe 45 or so before, making sure I'm loose, and then actual, like, getting into the lifting, 20. 20 would be more than enough.
How close to 900 do you want to touch in the warm-up?
It depends on how I'm feeling. I would say probably 850.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. You know, maybe an 825, depending. Again, it really depends
Going
on
by
the
feel,
setup.
huh?
But I would say within that, you know, if I was gonna pick an opener of 950, I would probably, you know, I'd probably go, if it was 950, maybe 880, so 50 to 70 pounds.
Something similar for you, Jerry?
You'd probably be similar, right?
Yeah, it'd be very similar to that. Yeah, and like Brian was saying, the timing's crucial. You know, because you don't want to warm up too early. You don't want to be rushed through warm-ups. So, you know, that's always the hardest part, is how to pace the contest so your warm-ups are just in time, you know, so everything's the same. You know, so your time between your warm-ups and your time for when you're going to go your attempt is all the same.
That's got to be where it pays to be a veteran. Having done X number of converts, you're a
experience.
newbie, it's time number one, and you're just not sure of the
Experience
pacing.
definitely
The old
plays in.
story, the young bull and the old bull stand on top of the hill.
Yeah.
That's just a very good one.
And the contest, you know, we're, you know, here, you know, they're very strict on time, you know, so these guys know the times right now. You know, there's other contests we've done over the years, and there were places that you
A little
think
more
you're-
fluid, huh?
Yeah, you think you're going to start at noon, and they go, you know, we're going to push it back 45 minutes, you know.
And that's why staying calm, and with something like this, you need to manage your heart rate, manage your adrenaline release, getting ready to go. You know, your warm-ups are warm-ups, right? Like, you don't need to necessarily burn too much energy there. So it's getting ready, but also knowing the time And then you have in the gym, typically you would at least set some type of clocks to know when your last warm-up's going to go, how much time you ideally like. Some guys are a little bit shorter, some guys are a little bit longer. So it may be around, I would say kind of universally about 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 7 or 8 at the top end. So, you kind of take that last warm-up and you're walking up there and you're just recovering the exact same as you would have in the gym. And then you feel it out. But, getting into this, this is a unique event, and this is Strongman. This is what's so cool about Strongman is every pull is different, right? And that's why it's so, it's so hard to maybe quantify for somebody at home. You're looking at this and say, well, if I do a block pull, is it the exact same thing? Well, no, it's not, because you don't have the cable the same way or whatever. So it's a unique lift, and all these guys, again, like what Jerry just said, it's like you saw it last year. This is what I would think. I would prep a little bit different. Maybe some of these guys did, maybe they didn't. And this is the interesting conversation to have with them.
Oh,
See, here, Brian was just saying earlier about Evan, how he gets that kind of yank.
Yeah.
Especially this type of apparatus, you cannot yank it. You've got to coil into this thing.
So there's no give on that bar, huh?
No, there's a stiff bar, and the yank is not going to do you any good. On a deadlift bar that's got a lot of flex, you can kind of yank on it and help it pop off the floor. But on this bar, it's only going to fight you.
But just to point out the head judge, I know the last lifter with Trey, he kind of didn't give him a down signal.
You won that last little inch.
But you know the head judge is? That's Brad Gillingham, 6-time IPF world champion. He has he told me yesterday, 103 800-pound deadlifts in competition.
That's awesome.
103 800-pound plus deadlifts. So I think he knows a little bit about it.
Right.
There you go.
Years ago, he had a DVD
experience
that you could probably buy. I don't know if you guys ever saw that DVD.
I did, man. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
It was.
I'm dating myself a little bit, but
Yeah. Well.
That used to be the way, man. You had somebody's training DVDs,
Well, there was no YouTube or anything to look at this stuff,
Get you all fired up, hop in the DVD.
Powerlifting USA and somebody's DVDs.
Get something to take notes, and you're sitting here watching
Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make a 9 o'clock session with somebody,
Yeah.
and then drive all the way home, drive 10 hours one day just to train with a certain person on a certain event that they had. Yeah, absolutely.
So on top of never having been in a deadlift suit myself, something else I've never done, which I saw him do, was the smelling salts.
Sure.
What's the story?
So it's just ammonia is what it is. So it's more of a focus factor, I guess. Like a lot of guys really like it. It really gets you zoned in. I liked it more for maximum lifts. And I really didn't use it much in training. It kind of like speaking like the belt. I didn't like to overuse that, so I would only use it in my maybe last 1 or 2 sessions, so it would really get my adrenaline going. It wasn't something I was too used to, or I didn't expect it. So it's like we're talking about the belt. I was the same way as Jerry, right? No belt, work up, and then I actually had different levels of belts that I would put on. So it was more of a more flexible, kind of softer belt, and then you would go to that, and then the top level was just that big power belt, but I wouldn't put that on until maybe a couple weeks before the contest. So I'd already built all my strength up, and then it's like adding an extra layer of muscle, basically. Like you're not
it's a mental thing too, right?
Yes.
As I always describe it, like a dial. Like you turn that dial up.
Yeah.
Because I would even go as far as like deadlift. I wouldn't wrap my thumbs until after 800 pounds. I would just go a single wrap on the strap. And then after 850, then I'd fully strap, put the thumbs around. It started to get a little more serious, and I started turning the dial more. Because I would always put in just enough to pull that lift. You see a lot of guys like, they're a 900-pound deadlifter, and they're pulling 7 just as fast as they can, and I pull it just enough to pull it. I didn't put any more in, and then as we went up, I turned that dial up. I didn't waste any more energy than I needed.
I would share a lot, video content, whatever, and there was so many people that were shocked with my training that I would start at 135 pounds. Just one plate, 135, get loose, do it the same way, and they were like, I could easily walk in and start with 3 or 4 plates, but every single lift was the exact same way, right? So I respected the lift where every single one of them I was feeling it, but then those warm-up lifts were giving me feedback as well on how am I feeling that day? What's in the tank? Where should we go? You know,
Get
and
everything
as
firing.
you know, all the stuff that Jerry's saying right now, that's you're hearing that from somebody who has been experienced in training for a long time, right? So that stuff, when you're early on, you tend to not think about that as much. It's kind of like, oh, I'll walk in and I'm going to try to show off and whatever. Whereas a guy that's like you're saying, the old bull, the young bull, right? The young bull needs to show off, right? They want to show off. And the old bull's like, all right, you go do your thing. I'm going to sit back here. And then when it's time to turn the dial on, flip the switch on, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference.
Hey, the old bull, young bull. I did a powerlifting meet early 2000s in Venice Beach. They warm up on bench press, and the old guys, my age, our age at the time, you know, now, at the time they're bench pressing, they got 2 plates on there. I was asking if I could jump in and warm up. They're like, oh, we can pull a plate off. I'm like, it's fine. I jump in there like, just wait, kid. And I'm like, yeah. You know, I jump in.
Not going to happen to me.
Yeah. Now, no, we start with the bar and we warm up. That was a good pull. Now, how did he do on the deadlift of the Shaw Classic?
I don't remember what number he ended up with.
So I think he's a pretty decent deadlifter, right? I don't know too much about it.
I want to say he might have done the 950 and jumped to 1050 and not got it.
A little big jump.
But this is good.
Oh, that would have been a big rep for him.
Yeah.
So he's just got to regroup here.
And he's got the time, right?
Yeah.
A minute's longer than you think it is.
Yeah.
So
we have a time clock.
if he could put one more on the board here,
That puts him in the middle of the pack. For
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
I mean, he's already done a great job. I'm actually, I will say, I'm a little bit surprised by Evan not getting more than 2, you know. But what we were talking about going into it is that explosive pulling. It's sometimes a help, and sometimes on an event like this with the setup, it's not going to play. It's not going to play well. No. And I think you saw that there, you know, because it's just a different thing. It's almost the best way probably to describe it is you got to get that tension, and you got to have a 4 low. You got to be able to kick it into 4 low and just get all that slack out of that, all that whole setup, and then go, right? But if you can't get into that low gear, and all you're trying to do is pull it 4 high, you gotta lock in, and you're seeing in the setup with a lot of these athletes, some of them have not done that, but it's also a tough setup. Like, to be fair to these guys,
it's a hard pull.
Yeah,
I tested this last year for him, and it is a hard pull, especially from the start, to get that sled moving, because you're not only fighting the weight, you're fighting the friction of all those 4 big bushings.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a hard pull, but like Brian said, you've got to have that power to coil into it and just push it off the ground. You can't rely on just that explosive yank, because it's not going to work on this.
I know we're early in the competition, right? And everyone here earned their spot to be here. But in any sport, you have some people that they have their training numbers, and then you're under the lights with the crowd, with the pressure. And some people rise and compete better than they do in training, and their numbers play better. And some people, they don't hit what they do in their own gym. Who do you think competes really well under the pressure?
I mean, all these guys. I mean, they're all pros. They've been going, long enough. Most of these guys were at the Shaw Classic, or the strongest man on earth. They've been at World's Strongest Man. So they should be well adjusted to deal with different weather temperatures and travel, and just thing you get used to as a pro. Now, if it's your first couple, it's a big shock. But these guys are
vets.
Seasoned enough that it shouldn't really be much of a factor.
Did you guys find that your training numbers were similar to getting under the lights, or did it always go a bit better?
Well, you'd always wanted to leave your biggest lifts, best lifts for competition.
Yeah.
But you don't want to leave it in the gym, and that's something you have to learn. And over years, as you train more, you begin to trust yourself that it's gonna be there when you need it, right? And that's for some of these guys, maybe they did train too hard leading up. And for all of them, this is exactly what I did. Going out of this event, what you'd have to look back to is what was your training leading up, what numbers did you hit in the gym, and then how did you perform here ultimately, right? And then did you go too hard in training? Because all these events are going to beat you up to a certain extent. And I think that's one of the potentially biggest challenges with the sport of strongman is being good at all of the events, because you're not only training for a deadlift. You got to
Right.
do everything else and perform in everything else. So everything is going to take its toll in a training cycle. So it's managing all of that, but being ready to peak to be the best here. So you got to analyze it and break it down. But as far as guys that step up, I mean, right now you got to look at the two guys that are at the top of the board. I mean, Trey did great. He went out and executed. And Mitchell Hooper, you know, he's another one, man, that like he found a way, right? Like, you know, he went out, and maybe he's going to be frustrated that he maybe went a little bit too quick, but you know, he put up a big number. You know,
He's still good points right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's still great
you're
points.
in great points,
Yeah.
and it's that. I think in this contest, it's going to be that consistency across the board that's going to end up proving who's going to win.
Yeah.
As in any contest, right? It's the consistency. You can't have a great event and then fall down. You got to be in the points on everything.
Yeah,
so.
it doesn't matter if you win an event and then you're last or zero on another event. It's not going to do any good.
Yeah,
Max, this has been his Achilles.
Yes.
So to your point, that one rep that Luke got was actually pretty
good
big.
points. Good points.
Well, I
Being you
think
got two
that's
guys that zeroed, that's good points.
Yeah.
I think that's why you saw a little celebration from him.
He knew it, you know,
Yeah.
because he knew he's not the greatest deadlifter coming in here, but he's got a great overhead and other events that are going to be good for him. So if he can at least get that one, now he's got some good points on the board. You know, that stuff that's going to play out when we come in tomorrow night. We go in that last event. You know, these zeros come back to haunt you.
So I think what happens too, and you know, just talking back to just deadlift technique and things, I always thought of myself kind of wedging myself between the ground and the bar, and then getting that tension going, and you know, then kind of being a little bit of a geek and really looking at this. Do you actually recruit more muscle fibers by, you know, getting that excitation going and doing that sub-maximal effort before you start to launch the lift from the bottom on a heavier lift? And so I always thought of muscle recruitment was also a piece. Just like, you know, if you shrug with like a slower movement, if you take a faster movement, you're going to dig deeper into your traps because that's that muscle recruitment.
Yeah.
And then you get deeper into those. So that there might actually be more of a real physiologic reason why that slower start gets things going.
Well,
that muscle fiber.
I always thought of the deadlift different than way it's always been thought of, you know, for years, like as a pull. Where I think of a pull, you end up that yank. When you yank, the hips shoot up, and it's all on a posterior. I always broke it down and thought of it as a push, of starting that lift by pushing it off the ground.
Push your feet through the
and
ground.
Brian's the same way. You watch Brian's did the same way. That first starter lift is a push, with your largest muscles, like Brian said, are getting the bar moving, and then the posterior kicks in to finish that lift.
Well, it's still like spring. You're talking about explosive lifting. Loading into the lift, it's still a big explosion. It may not look appearance-wise like it is, but if you get locked in there so tight, at a certain point you have to hit it still,
it's
right?
Still a ton of power putting your feet to the floor.
It just doesn't look like the initial, you know, to somebody from the outside looking in, a guy that yanks on the bar, they're going to say, oh, that was more explosive. Well, not necessarily, right? It's tensioning the system. Then when it's time, I would feel all the tension get out of that bar and get right where I wanted, and then you hit it.
I mean, watch guys arm wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like, they're static. They're right in this spot, and they're but the muscle recruitment is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I mean, these slow pokes are just killing it for muscle recruitment, and they're fighting each other, and so you could also think of it that way. I mean, it's explosive, but you're in the same spot, but you're recruiting fibers.
This is going to be our final lifter.
So Bobby will be interesting with this. He'll be really interesting because he will like this event, and he'll be looking at the board and saying, I can pick up some points here.
Yeah.
And this is now his job to go execute, right? So he's got an open opportunity to really get some good points in this event.
He's got the biggest advantage over everyone.
Massive.
Coming out last, he's watched everybody's mistakes. He knows the numbers to beat.
Yep.
He knows where he could put himself to get the best points to set himself up for the next event.
And I think he's got to be looking at more than 5. You know, really, if he wants to be this needs to be a good event for Bobby to get into the points for the rest of the contest.
Yeah.
And he's got to put something good up here.
Like at least 5 or so.
I would say,
At least
I mean,
5, yeah.
if he could really get into that 6 or 7 range,
That would be huge.
it would be so big for him because, you know, getting a top 4 on this would be very good. You know, looking at the events that are coming up, right? Like, this needs to be one of the events where he gets big points to put himself in a good spot.
I'm thinking.
And here's the point, you know, where he could potentially, by default, help another guy out. You know, if he ties for, you know, Hooper for 7,
Yep.
he's going to help Trey out a little bit because now Hooper's got to share points with Bobby.
And Bobby is not the tallest competitor either. So the elevated pull for him is going to play into his hand
He should coil in
a
well
little
with
a
this.
little bit better as well.
That beard's going to be good for 3 reps, just right out of the gates.
Power of
The
the
beard power.
Yeah.
He's got to bring it, man. He's going to have to bring it.
He pulled 900, you know, his debut at the Arnold, so over 900. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the power.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a good dad. Bobby is a good deadlifter for sure.
He likes the deadlift. He likes these static events. So this should be a good event for Bobby.
I asked him one time about his log press at a competition. I said, how are you going to do with a log press? And he said, I'm Bobby Thompson. I was like, okay. I was like, you're right. You know what he did? He won the log press.
Yeah. Well, if he backed it up, then I guess you
Exactly.
can
They
say
didn't
it.
say
yeah.
it. Yeah, he's got to back it up.
Yeah.
Oh, that looked good.
Oh, that was
Wow.
really
Looked
good.
really good.
Getting that tension out. Got the sweet spot. His feet are out.
They go
So
by
he's
a
kind of
good number.
culminated all the stuff we talked about.
Yeah. Well, he's had the advantage. Like, you know, Brian was saying, sit there, watch and learn. Watch what these guys are doing. See what they did wrong. You know, if they let that bar float out, okay, I need to be in this position here.
And he's not rushing.
These reps are looking good, man.
I think he's
They really
listening
are.
to us.
He's using the clock.
At least listen to you guys.
Yeah. That's great, man. He's just kind of locked it
That's
in.
that's a great score right there. Period. End of story. If he just gets 5.
That's awesome.
Wow. He's sliding right up. This is a
This
huge
next-
lift for him.
Wow, here we go.
Huge, huge.
Looks all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Wow.
So this one
He's
is
going after Trey now.
there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, we might be looking at a winner.
Wow.
Come on now. Oh, he did that math in his head.
Strategic.
He did that math in his head.
See, but now here's the interesting thing with that is, if he had the power to do it, which he may have, and he didn't do it,
would-
we're now talking about half a point.
Yeah. Now he's got to split points.
And
Yeah.
in the first event, that's a big thing to not go after that half a point if you could do it.
The way that looked, I think he had another one.
Yeah, I think he did.
I mean, we don't know what he's feeling. If he might have felt
Sure.
a little tweak or something, was smart and shut it down. Then he absolutely was smart. But if that last one felt fine with no little tweaks, I would have won that last one. I
was
want that
solid,
outright
man.
win.
Bobby looked good on that.
Looked
Looked
really
great.
good.
I'm not
You
going to
got
pull
it.
him apart on that one, no.
Bobby put in the work for that one. He did well.
Well, and he took his time too. That's
Yeah,
the
use the
beautiful
clock.
thing is he was resetting each one, tension up. I think he executed very well.
Very well.
Didn't get in a rush. That's awesome.
It's great to see an athlete mature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen your career over the years, right? Really from the beginning, and all the things you're talking about are just the maturity that you've gained. Because you would just come and just basically blow the events away, and then over time the meticulous nature came on. You know?
Yeah. Well, all of it comes into play. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here looking at this, and you brought up the training, and I'm thinking about if I was going to do that, how would I train for it to get ready? You know, and I know myself. I would probably build something that was suspended with a basket that I could get in the power rack and have something to set up, and
100%.
you know, because that would be the best way to replicate that tension. You know, but Bobby did good there. At the end of the day, you want to lock in.
Right.
And he came out last. He got that last number draw, and he did what he needed to do.
Use it to his advantage.
There you have the results
Rundown.
at the end of event number 1. 8 reps, a tie, 2-way tie for 8 reps. Thompson and Mitchell.
He put it,
Fantastic. Kiki's going to be down on the field here shortly with an event number 1 interview. Does that leaderboard look about how you thought it would shake out?
I think Bobby was probably the biggest surprise. I don't think, we knew he would be good, but
Yeah.
we were maybe mid-pack.
I might
He
have
came out
expected
firing.
more from Tommy.
Yeah,
Evan. I thought would get more reps.
Tom Stoltman and Evan Singleton are the big ones for me. I thought all those guys will do pretty well. But I'm kind of surprised Tom didn't get a bigger number,
Yeah.
and that Evan.
All right, we are heading down to here.
Trey, Bobby caught you at the very end there. I saw you shaking your head. What were you thinking?
Just, of course he has to time me, like that last rep of mine, I was just not quite locked out. Maybe if I, did it the first time, I had enough time to get a 9th rep, but no telling, it's always the name of the game, no one's going to know what happens. But me and Bobby, we've been rivals for years, so of course I got to tie with him.
That's right. Why not just keep it going? The Tower of Power is different than your traditional deadlift. What are you doing back home to simulate this?
Like I knew from last year, we used a squat bar, and so I bought a squat bar to train on. It's more stiff than a traditional power bar, and of course a deadlift bar is super whippy. Maybe knowing again, testing it, like it's very unstable with how the weight is connected to the bar. I'm thinking maybe a heavy bamboo bar setup for next year for training it.
Cool. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Event number 1, the Tower of Power down. That's fantastic. We're going to be here all day having an absolute blast. But quick closing thoughts. Brian, end of event 1, what stands out?
Well, we got a great contest underway. That's what I think. And these guys all came to battle. It's going to come down to who can be consistent and step up.
Jerry?
We got a great battle going right now. A couple surprises. Guys that get quite what we thought they would. Guys got maybe better than they were. So this is setting up for a good couple days.
All right, Dr. Bill, sub 30 seconds.
So basically, to me, this looked like kind of a little bit like what we thought it would be. And I also think that we're gonna watch Mateusz Kaliskowski come back on a storm. It's almost like he gets behind in this event and then takes off with it. But what I will say, anybody watching, this was a master class on the deadlift. This is probably about the most information you could possibly pack in a little bit, about 30 minutes or so with a deadlift training and perspective on competing. So I hope people get that this was a real master class.
I appreciate you, gentlemen. That was fantastic to watch and to just get a deadlift education the entire time. We've got a ton of fantastic strongman competition still coming up. Don't go anywhere. More coming up for the Tailgate show with CrossFit athletes going to take on event number 2, Seat at the Bar.